If you're doing a kettlebell swing with a squat movement, then you're doing it wrong, says Men's Health magazine. I'm here to tell you, if you're doing a kettlebell swing with a squat movement and you're doing that movement incorrectly, then you're doing it wrong. If you're doing that movement correctly, then you're doing it right. Bear with me. I am gonna prove to you with facts that the squat swing is perfectly fine. In fact, it's a swing that you want to be doing. I will explain why exactly. So there's a lot of people out there who are against the squat swing for several reasons. It could be because they've written about it and are so against it out in the public that they can't go back and say, hey, you were wrong. Then there are people who just belong to a group and it's just blasphemy if you perform a squat movement for a swing, just because. Then there are people who read magazines and just believe what they read. And I'm here to tell you, don't believe anything you read. Don't believe anything, not even what I say. Make sure you check out the link below, and I explain why you should not believe anything you read, including what we say, or I say, or any trainer from Cavemantraining. So check that link out. I guarantee it will make sense, and it will improve whatever you're doing. This basically applies to everything else in life, not just kettlebell training. Make sure you check out the end of the video where I explain why the squat swing got such a bad name. Okay. Men's health magazines are just like the news media. They want headlines. They'll do anything to just get viewers, to get clicks, and just to get people talking. So that's what it's about. You have to understand that first of all, okay? So there are sources where you go for your kettlebell training, and there are sources where you go for just a quick tip or some quick information and a bit of gossip. And guess where that is? That's right, online magazines. Okay, enough on that. Of course, sometimes they can also be right, but having been in the business myself where I or other people write for our clients, it has always been about the headline, not so much about the content, okay? So I've run IT businesses, and I know how all that goes with, you know, go after what people want to read, go after what shocks people, and that's the whole thing. Okay. We've always tried to remain more objective and open-minded and direct to the point with our information. And over a period of time, we have subjected ourselves to some of those things that I don't like. We have done that, and the reason for it is just money, plain and simple, because figures, clicks, views turns into money. So you have to eventually look at that. So it's either your business or it's what you stand for, okay? All right, enough of that. Back to the kettlebell squat swing. A squat is 3 joints: ankles, knees, hips, 3 joints. A hip hinge is 2 joints or 1 joint. So ankles out of play, ankles not involved, shins vertical. Now we got knees and hips, and that's your hip hinge. 2 joints or 1 joint. The true hip hinge, okay? So what are you doing with 1 joint? You're working more on isolating those gluteals, your buttocks, your hamstrings, your on the inside, your muscles here, I forgot the name at the moment, they work as well as part of the hip extension. So you're isolating, you're taking out another joint, your knees. So right here, you're working more on this area. Now, we're making the movement with two joints, the knees and the hips. Okay, so we're involving another joint and more muscles. Right, now, if we involve a third joint, the ankles, we got the calves and we got more resistance and more work to be done by the quads as well. Okay, but a squat still involves a hip hinge. Right here, my hips are flexed. I still need to squeeze my glutes to bring those hips up. So a squat involves a hip hinge. Okay, so I just spoke about the movements, the joints involved, how you get more muscles involved if you involve more joints. So here's a question for you. If you're on the side of the squat swing, it's blasphemy, it should not be done, it's good for nothing, then let me ask you this question and try and answer it before I provide the answer. If you're doing EMOMs, every minute on the minute, interval training, your goal is to spike your heart rate as high as possible with an exercise. So let's say that exercise needs to be a swing. So you can choose a swing variation that will spike that heart rate as fast as possible and as high as possible. So that's the variation that you need to go for, because that makes the most sense. Okay, what spikes your heart rate and gets the heart rate up quicker, gets that blood pumping? What does it? A exercise that has more muscles involved. Okay, so if you, for example, do a squat swing, it's going to be a lot harder and your heart rate goes up a lot faster and a lot higher. So my point is, if you're doing a squat swing correctly, that would be the best swing variation to choose for that goal. Okay, so that's what it's all about with training. You don't want to just do an exercise to be doing an exercise, although if you just want to have fun, great. But if you want to work towards a goal, let's say in our case, that's to spike your heart rate and then get it down again with interval training, then you want to pick that exercise that gets that heart rate up as high as possible and as fast as possible. And it is the one that involves the most muscle groups and is the hardest to do. The squat swing. Okay, I've spoken about it. Let's demonstrate the squat swing. Okay, I did two things there. One was just to demonstrate the movement with a steady going pace. Two, I showed the squat swing with a more explosive movement, because there will also be the question, well, what about power for the gluteals and all that? Okay, correct. If you want to isolate the glutes more for explosive power, go for the hip hinge swing. Makes more sense. But don't say that you're not going to work on explosive power with a squat movement, because you can still make a powerful movement, explosive movement, and you are still working those glutes. Yes, you're not isolating them as much as possible because you're adding the knees and the ankles. Isolation would be just the hips. But it's very hard to make an explosive movement with just your hips alone. So you're adding those knees, but that's still two joints. Okay, so I just demonstrated the squat swing, and I've demonstrated that it can be safe if you perform it correctly. So what are we doing? That weight falls down, my ankles are bending, I'm looking ahead, I'm pushing my hips low, pulling the knees out, keeping the feet flat, That weight comes down to the ground, not touching the ground obviously. And there it is, it's hanging, my arms are connecting, my knees are past the toes, but they don't have to be. And then I press the heels into the ground, and everything is the same as with a hip hinge movement. It's just the same. At the top here, it's just a different trajectory of the kettlebell. Down and more up. So it would be a great one for the American swing, but let's not get into that. And the other thing that's happening is you're staying upright. So as a beginner, a kettlebell beginner, a squat movement is more natural. People are more used to that. That's why it's very hard to get them to stop doing that movement when you start teaching people a hip hinge kettlebell swing. The first thing they'll do is squatting because it just is more natural. So basically we're going against that and we're saying, hey, a squat swing is bad, don't do it. But nobody has been really looking at why you should be doing it, what are the benefits. It's just no, because some group of kettlebell training, I'm not going to mention names, has said that's not a good swing, that's not how you should do it, and it doesn't have any benefits. And there are other people who followed along with that. I've spoken to highly professional people high up, and they said the same thing. But I am here to disagree. I have disagreed from the beginning. Many years ago I've written about this, and as I went along I've just been able to explain more benefits of the squat swing. So this is probably my third or fourth video that I'm doing on the kettlebell squat swing, but it's the most detailed. Okay, so where were we? We've spoken about the squat swing, demonstrated the squat swing. Let's demonstrate a hip hinge swing. Okay, so what happened there? Two joints, shins vertical, ankles not moving, pushing the hips back, looking at the ground, shoulders back, and the weight comes through the legs, and then standing up, lats down. Now, that can be seen as a hardstyle swing, but if you slow the pace and you go with a heavier weight, you're making the same movement, a hip hinge swing. But it's not a hardstyle swing anymore, because a hardstyle swing needs to be powerful. Okay? There's a lot more I can say about that, but just know that usually there is a group, well, it's a big group, because that group made the kettlebell swing popular. You know, we all have to be grateful for that, absolutely. Then there is a group of other people who use a sports style swing, and they were actually before the group on this side with the hardstyle swing, because sports style was really what brought the kettlebell to us. Okay, so then it comes to looking at that and you think, oh, it's either hardstyle or sports style. It is not. There is so much in between. One thing I'm already demonstrating is that there is the squat swing in between. Okay, you need to understand that in sports style, the swing is designed to clean and to snatch, nothing else. It's not designed to work your cardiovascular system. When they train the swing to get better at the clean. They train it to get better at the snatch. That's it. And your trajectory is up, less resistance, good pace, endurance, etc. The hardstyle swing is powerful movements, short bursts, low reps, heavy weight. That's what it's all about. Now, it's insane to think that there's nothing in between there, okay? It's just, there is so much more in between there than there actually is within those two things right here. I guarantee you. Okay, Let's get back to the squat swing. The squat swing is also good for beginners, as I said, because it's a movement pattern that they're more used to. But the next best thing is the lower back. So if you're doing a hip hinge, which is what everybody just insists on teaching, the hip hinge swing, then right here there is load on your back, right there. Okay, so we're dealing with somebody who's unconditioned, because most kettlebell beginners are unconditioned, and then there could be overweight or obese people. Yes, with obese people there's other things that you should do, but that's another point. So why insist on getting that hip hinge swing in first when the movement pattern of the squat is more natural and they're going to have less chance of back injuries? So more load here, a pattern that they're not used to. You're going to have to provide more cues and more time to teach them something, and in the end you got to look at why are they doing the exercise in the first place. What are you trying to do? Just generic fitness for weight loss? And if that's the case, generic fitness for weight loss, hell, why not go with a movement pattern that is more natural, safer, and takes less time to teach? Why not? Just because somebody says so? Because most people have been going along and say, hey, you should not be doing the squat swing. Here's how all that happened. First of all, let me say, Pavel brought the kettlebell to the US, and that's where it all became popular. And when he first started, if you look at his early videos, he was doing a squat swing. And then it developed into something else, and over time people have just been saying you can't be doing the squat swing anymore. But I believe Pavel himself might have changed his opinion on that. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But now the rest of the group should too. It's time that they say, you know, hey, you're right, we shouldn't be talking down on this movement. But if they have a solid reason for it, great. Let me tell you, with a squat swing, you can clean still, you can snatch, like you can snatch with a swinging movement still. I'll demonstrate. So that's my clean. So the squat swing, you can do the same things, and it's more taxing on the muscles, on your cardiovascular system, and it's easier to learn. So stop saying that a squat swing is not good, please. Okay, I can say a whole lot more, and I've said a whole lot more. Check out the link below and join our groups. We've got communities on Facebook, Reddit, WeMe, you name it, it's all there. Check the link and come and join us there and just start a discussion. We're open to discussion. We're happy to be proven wrong, although I am quite confident that what I just said is a fact, that I've used these things myself. I've used them with clients as well. So I've put it to the test over the years, and I see that there is nothing wrong with it when it's done correctly. So check out that link. Oh, I almost forgot. We just got to say this. The reason why the squat swing got such a bad name is because when people were teaching the hip hinge swing, as you know, the squat movement pattern is more natural, and that's what they would be doing, and they do it slowly and then also raising their arms. So okay, if you're teaching a hip hinge swing and it needs to be explosive, then you don't want to see that squat movement. And whatever swing variation we're doing. We don't want to see an arm raise, okay? So, but just because that was the reoccurring pattern with every beginner, it got a bad name and people just kept repeating that. But as I've just demonstrated, it's perfectly fine to do this movement. It is great. I love it. You just need to do it right. See you on the link, see you in the groups. And if you want a private group for more knowledge like this every week with fresh weekly workouts and top trainers, then check out the link below as well. We've got nearly 100 people in there who learn to open their mind and learn new things every week. See you there.